Mind Your Subconscious is the podcast that provides you with techniques and knowledge about your subconscious mind, the part of your brain that lets you control your ego and create an extraordinary reality with your thoughts. We invite meditation, hypnosis, NLP, EFT, and other experts to help you master the most powerful part of your brain. Your host is Jennifer Schlüter, who quit her job as managing editor of 22 newspapers to travel the world and work online just after one hypnosis session. A nomad ever since 2016, Jennifer is now a certified hypnotist and helps people transform their dreams into reality. So today I'm here with Kadara. So please introduce yourself.
How you doing? My name is Kadara. I have a spiritual teacher, and I spend a larger portion of my life working and guiding others, as well as always working on myself and traveling the world to learn about different cultures and spiritual practices.
Thank you. So as people probably won't know, but you have been my first spiritual teacher. I remember we met when I was 18 and you were the one teaching me about energies, about meditation and everything. But I kind of was afraid to really go into it and to dive deeper into it because I knew you had a dark side to you and you were connected to a dark side. So can you please explain that dark side that I was afraid of?
So I guess the misconception with like the light and the dark side is people seeing the light as positive and the dark as negative. But for me, in my world, in my reality, it's just light is just one form of energy and dark is one form of energy. Just like cold water is one form of water, hot water is one form of water. You wouldn't say hot water is bad, but what really matters is when something has like an evil intention. So when people hear the word like demons, like if I say I work with a demon, people start thinking, oh, religiously related. He's working with evil entities and they're going to possess him and stuff like that. But it's not really that. It's just working with a demon, which comes from the word daemon. It's just another form of a spirit guide. So I think sometimes you or others fear this unknown word because you haven't experienced it yourself, which is normal. If you think of media and religion portray demons as being like these evil entities that want to kill and destroy and harm you. And I learned to get out of that mindset. I learned to just accept things as they are and to trust and to do things through experience without expectations of others, myself, or the energy I'm working with. So I think you just might have feared that unknown at the time. So that was 100% understandable.
And that is correct. I did fear the unknown. But I've also learned that I shall not fear the unknown and that I shall embrace everything. And just please also explain how you made peace with that, with the unknown and with the demons and with that so-called and so referred to dark side, and what the best way is for everybody listening to not be afraid of this side of the world.
I would say it began with me first, just, I guess, understanding time. A lot of people say, time is nonlinear. And when people hear that, they're like, no, I wake up at a certain time, I go to work at a certain time, and I got that. But it's like time as a whole for some people is just everything happens simultaneously. One of my greatest lessons I ever had to learn was that my past has already happened and I can't change it. And my future, which is like the unknown, has infinite possibilities. I have no idea what's going to happen in 10 minutes, 1 hour, one day. I might hope for certain things. I might try to manifest and attract them, but I don't really know what's going to happen. So I stopped learning to focus so much on that. I started learning to focus on right now. And in some of my darkest times, especially when I was in the military, I was being guided by these forces that felt like they were dark energy. So I thought, why is this dark energy trying to help me? Maybe it wants something out of it and it's trying to possess me. I went to Iraq for 2 years and Afghanistan for 1 year. And there were instances where, it was fight or flight and some voice or some energy protected me and guided me. And I know some people might say, how do you know it wasn't just like your inner self or higher self? It was just because the energy was there in front of me talking to my higher self and me trying to translate it all. Over time, I kind of learned that these different energies aren't necessarily evil. Darkness doesn't actually mean negative. If you think of going outside at nighttime when you look up at the stars, You see the light of the stars in the sky and they're beautiful, but they wouldn't be there without the darkness. But no one looks out into the vast universe and goes, man, look at all that negativity. Look at all that evil out there trying to consume the stars. You know, the stars are dying. The darkness just brings out the light in the stars. So the stars wouldn't be as naturally beautiful without the darkness. So I learned to accept that darkness, you know, the darkness of the world around me and the darkness within me. I understood that I have darkness within me as well. I can't judge a dark entity knowing that I have ego, I have greed, I have all these values within me that aren't as positive or great. And once I learned to just not judge others or judge myself, I began to listen to these daemons, as I call them, and they guided me, you know, and I learned that you kind of need both. People talk about needing the light, needing the dark, that balance, the yin and the yang, the divine masculine, divine feminine. You do need them both because they both have lessons that you can learn. You know, the light side might teach you how to be more offensive, where the dark side might teach you to be more defensive. You know, when you receive all this negativity from people, you could just put up a dark shield in front of you, which just blocks that darkness itself, you know, dark blocking dark, light working with light. So for me, it's that ultimate balance. And I would say as a recommendation for people is to just learn to find that balance within yourself, you know, truly look into the yin and the yang through the Taoist or Taoist lessons. You'll understand how it works with the energy of like the male, the female, the light and the dark, the up and the down, the left and the right. Once you have this total true balance within yourself, you won't actually fear the darkness, you'll embrace it. As you know, the greater your light is, the greater your darkness can be, which would make it harder for any outside forces to affect you. Because deep down inside, everything that you need and everything that's going to change with your future is within you. So you got to balance yourself before you can expect the universe to balance everything for you.
Okay, well, that would have answered my next question, which would have been how to accept a dark side in others as well. But I guess that also comes down to accepting yourself, right?
Yeah, I want to say that when it comes to accepting a darkness in others, it's all about reflection. You know, everything you see about someone is a reflection of yourself. And that reflection is based on your experiences. If you have a traumatic past and someone starts doing something that resembles something someone else did to you, you might categorize them and be like, this person's going to be just like XYZ, when in reality, they might not be. They're just exhibiting something that you deem or suppose is going to be negative in the future. So we turn away from these things and we block these things out, not realizing that we shouldn't be comparing them to someone else. Everyone should be given their own chance. You know, there's going to be circumstances where, you know, if someone's abusive, bam, they're abusive. But if someone's doing something where they might do something, what I might consider small, everyone's levels are different. If someone does something that I might be like, oh, my ex did that, it doesn't mean they're going to be my ex. So learning to embrace those reflections within myself and not judging myself allowed me to not judge others, because how I see everyone, again, is a reflection of myself. If I think, you know, you're such a positive person, it's probably because you're doing things that I think are positive. But if I think you're a negative person, it's probably because you're doing things I think are negative. But because I think it's negative doesn't mean it's actually wrong. You know, it's just our moral compass, our own decisions and guidelines of what we think to be right and wrong. But there's a difference to me between like what's like right, what I would like to happen, what I wouldn't like to happen, and what's actually right and what's actually truth. You know, they say there's three sides to every story. There's my version of the story, there's your version of the story, and then there's what really happened. In order to achieve that version of what really happened, you really have to self-reflect and truly understand, like, okay, is what I'm doing right, or is what I'm doing wrong to me? And would, you know, the universe condone what that other person is doing? Am I mad at that person because I disagree with them? You know, we disagree with so many people. Someone says something, you're like, I disagree with the person. It's not so much about a disagreement, it's just they're doing something you personally don't like, which doesn't make it wrong. So
Absolutely. And so when you have these situations, for example, how do you work with your subconscious mind on changing them? Like, for example, evaluating yourself in a situation, stepping back and looking at the situation from the outside, so to say, or from above. How are you working with your subconscious mind? I know you do meditation, but yeah, how do you do it?
I would say first you have to understand the difference between like your subconscious mind and your conscious mind. So it's like if you think of it like a computer, your conscious mind is the computer and your subconscious mind is the hard drive. So the hard drive can only do things when it's connected to the computer. And the subconscious just records everything. Everything you do, everything you say, every experience you have, it's automatically put into your subconscious. So when you have that mentality, you understand that you have to focus on your conscious. So in order to, have these positive thoughts, I actually have to think more positive consciously, which will then download those things into my subconscious. Like I said before, when it comes to like the agreeing and disagreeing, I believe I made a joke once and everyone in the group liked it except for one person. And she gave me a lot of slack and just kind of upset me. And I was upset internally at the time because of what she had said to me, because she didn't like the joke. And I spent the day thinking, like, who does she think she is to tell me the joke's not funny? And then I realized, what about all those times someone made a racial joke and I thought it wasn't funny and didn't want them to make it? I was like, I'm a hypocrite right now. I understood that not everyone's going to like my jokes. And I'm actually just mad at her because she didn't like my joke. So that right there was a moment where I reprogrammed my mind. It's all about reprogramming, what a lot of us refer to as mental transmutation. But I reprogrammed my mind to understand that there are going to be times that I do things that other people won't like, and I need to accept that. And that right there was automatically programming something consciously that would be downloaded subconsciously that in the future would help me, lead a better, healthier life for me.
How exactly then do you reprogram your mind? What's your method or your
So,
subconscious?
so my method is just self-reflection. To reprogram my subconscious, it's a lot of self-reflection. I don't have to meditate to self-reflect, but sometimes it's just sitting there and thinking about, 10, I could think of like 10 things that I disliked this week. And as I go down those 10 things, I go down them and I start thinking, okay, the first one, I disliked, someone telling me that my joke wasn't funny. Why do I dislike this? Do I dislike it because it's that person saying it or because they disagree with me? I realize I dislike it because they disagree with me. The actual joke itself was actually wrong. It was a funny joke to me, but it was something that hurt someone. So that right there was me reprogramming that one thought. And again, the more you reprogram and you self-reflect and you learn to think more positively, the more positive aspects and outlook you have on life. It's the laws of attraction. If I think more positively, more positive things will happen. I tend to self-reflect more consciously when I'm just like sitting around the table and stuff and writing these things down. Then when I go meditate and I actually start to connect deeper to my subconscious, and then later on, your super conscious, it's easier for me because I've allowed my conscious to deal with all these traumas, this darkness, this negativity already, which means my subconscious, my hard drives are more positive. So I have a more positive experience when I meditate.
Okay, so you just mentioned the superconscious. Can you tell our listeners what's the difference between our subconscious and our superconscious?
So your subconscious mind is kind of like the fight or flight. It's like, I'll just do it right now. Our conscious mind thinks about everything, it tries to plan everything and figure things out as we're walking around throughout the day. Your subconscious is everything that's only downloaded. Like our subconscious mind doesn't really think for itself. It just records everything, and we're able to extract that data from the subconscious. Your superconscious is when you've allowed your subconscious and conscious to merge as one, and you have that like Buddha, God, cosmic Christ mentality where you are so in tune and balanced with yourself that you don't really allow things to affect you externally. You understand that everything going on in your life is internal and everything is based on the reaction. So with people, if I'm talking to someone right now and I like someone and I'm like, hey, I like you, I think you're very beautiful, and she's like, oh, you're not my type. The conscious mind is like, oh man, what did I do wrong? Things like that. The subconscious mind just downloads it. But being connected to the superconscious mind understands that, okay, she doesn't like me. I understand that I'm not the type of person she wants. That's nothing against her. It's nothing against me. We're just not compatible. I shouldn't be mad at her because what's the point in going down a road or a path that's not going to work out because we both don't agree on something. So that superconscious mindset is what allows you to instantly understand and understand everything going on around you and causes your initial reactions to be more positive. Instead of like, having a horrible day because you've had a crush on someone for 3 months and dedicated so much time and given and didn't receive all these expectations. The superconscious mind goes, okay, it didn't work out. I understand. Time to move on and focus on right now. I'm not going to focus on the past. I'm not going to focus on the future of trying to please them. I'm just going to focus on myself.
Thank you for this example, because I think a lot of people out there need to hear that.
I see it a lot, and I get it a lot with different people I work with. It's just people get let down by other people, especially relationship wise.
Yes.
Being in a relationship for 10 years, and then people are like, how could you not love me anymore? What did I do? What's wrong? Blah, blah, blah. In reality, it's them. That's how they are. They, just like everything evolves, we evolve as people. Like we reprogram our minds. They've reprogrammed their subconscious mind, and a part of them feels like the love that they felt for you before isn't the same, or they have a new version of love that they feel that's more compatible with them. And you can't give that to them. And you shouldn't try to change yourself to give it to them. What they're doing is they're changing their environment, which is what you want. You want to change your environment to be a positive way that works best for you. So by changing their environment, yes, it hurts us, but at the same time, we should respect them and understand that's their choice. That's their choice to live their best life. And you should want everyone to live their best life. And you should also want everyone to want you to live your best life, because that's what you want. So again, that super conscious mind is that mindset of me wanting to live my best life, wanting you to live your best life. And that's what like unconditional love is.
Can you give us, please, specific practices that you do or that you have been taught to awaken the superconscious or to use it on a daily basis?
For me, there's like different steps, and it's what I do with a lot of the guided meditations that I do. But it starts with breathing. When I tell people to breathe, people usually laugh and they're like, "I do breathe," and I said, "No, you're breathing subconsciously. Like your body just knows to breathe, but to breathe consciously is different. I think to breathe consciously is to be aware of that moment and to actually focus on your breathing. To sit down, and I always count down from 10 to 0. I say 0 because 0 is a number most people don't think about, but I think because it's like an unknown, it's beautiful to count there. So I actually count down from 10 to 0 when I'm beginning to meditate. With each number, I take a deep breath in through my nose and out through my mouth. And I go down from 10 to 0. And usually by the time you get to like 3 or 4, you've actually calmed down by so much that once you get to 0, you're able to just think a lot more calmly and more focused. Once I've been able to, calm my actual body down, I start to then work on the energies in my body. For those that believe and understand chakras, these different 7 major chakras in the body, it's about unblocking everything from the root, which is like down at my feet, moving all the way up. And I just go up and up all the way into my crown chakra, which is once you've unblocked and unlocked the crown chakra, you're again a lot more relaxed. You're able to focus on the energies inside your body. That's still internal. That's still like more of your conscious subconscious. The next phase to connect into your superconscious is to have that cosmic consciousness or cosmic mindset to where you're accepting and flowing with everything. It's not trying to control my thoughts, not trying to control everything around me, but moving with everything. As people say, going with the flow, living with right now. If I see the world in my life, I see myself in the center, and all the things that I've ever done in my past, that's in my subconscious, all the things I'd like to do, which are kind of like conscious, my family, my friends, I see everything just flowing around me, kind of like I'm on a racetrack. And then I can begin to bring these thoughts into the pit crew and focus on what I want to. But once you've learned to just calm everything down, become part of the flow, live in the moment, live in the now, and allow everything to just happen, you have that cosmic mindset. And that's kind of how you reach your superconscious. You reach your superconscious by not forcing any thoughts, by not trying to control, by not trying to control yourself, by not trying to have expectations. I believe a lot of people struggle with meditation is because they go into meditation with an expectation. They start meditating because they want to reach their superconscious. They want to reach this cosmic mindset. Going into meditation that way will only frustrate you more because you'll start thinking of things like time. How long should it take me? I've been meditating today for 30 minutes or an hour. Why am I not, enlightened? I've been meditating for 10 years. Why am I not enlightened? You're not enlightened yet because you have that expectation of what you should receive from meditation. Go into meditation without an expectation. You just do it. And if you just do it, eventually you'll understand the cosmic Christ, super Buddha mindset, consciousness, or what people want to call it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I think that's also very powerful for our listeners.
Mhm.
So where did you learn all of this? How did you find out? Did you find out by practicing? What happened?
So my journey kind of began when I was younger. I lived in Japan when I was a preteen and a teenager. And my master, sensei, or teacher is the one that kind of taught me about meditation and breathing.
Can you tell us
I
who he
also,
was or how you
say
met?
again. So actually, the village we lived in was actually not very positive one at the time due to a lot of suicides and things like that. And it was really hard for me to deal with. So he taught me to meditate, to learn, to understand and understand death itself, not to fear death. Death is natural, it's going to happen. And I'm someone that believes in like rebirth. I understand that my body is just a vessel for me and that my spirit and soul itself will continue on. So when I understood that these people might have taken their lives and their bodies may be dormant or lifeless, their spirit and soul is still going on somewhere because, like energy, nothing's ever destroyed, it's just recycled. So that was like a great lesson for me in the beginning. And over time, I began to learn more and more. I was immersed in like spiritual communities. I looked up occult knowledge, and that's when I began traveling the world. I wanted to truly understand and understand the different practices of Africa, in Egypt, understand the Western mindset. I went to India. I went to South America recently. I'm here in America, learning about like the indigenous people of America. So learning all these different cultures and mindsets and the things they have in common has really helped me truly understand myself and how I can attain, this super conscious that they would say, Jesus, Buddha, and other ascended masters reached.
Can you tell us, give us like 2 or 3 examples from different countries and what they have taught you and their culture has taught you?
I would say the biggest one would be Egypt. When I started researching more into Thoth and just the other Egyptian gods. And I started to learn about, sarcophaguses and things like that and their beliefs that truly helped me understand, like, why they actually, mummify people, why they put them in the sarcophagus, the traveling of like your soul and your life force, which kind of led me more into astral projection and being able to do that. Japan was a lot more for me, understanding just the flow of things, being one with the world. Going to school there, our school was like the grounds were kind of like a square. If you had a class that was on the far right side and your next class was at the top, you actually had to go around you had to go around clockwise to get to your class, even though that was the longest route. But that's just like the flow of things. Japan taught me about like the natural flow of the world and life. And I would say if I had to choose one other third place, I'd say South America was where I learned more about plant medicines through like the shaman there, and just learning to live without anything. When you're in the jungle or the Amazonas, you truly learn like I don't need my phone as much as I think I do. I don't need all these expensive fancy clothes. I don't need a car. I don't need this great laptop. I just need the basic necessities to survive, which is myself. Everything I actually need is within me. Yes, you need food, you need water and things like that to survive, but it was like an internal journey of being like, all right, I'm traveling, but I don't need everything I thought I needed. I don't need this expensive materialistic stuff because there's people that have been living without it, for aeons, and they're perfectly fine. They're happy. So South America taught me true happiness.
That's powerful. So by living in all these different countries and studying all these different countries and over the years, has your meditation practice changed?
Yes, my meditation practice has truly evolved with every country, with every lesson I learn, whether it be reading a book, listening to a podcast, watching a movie, talking with other people. It has evolved so much. If I look at myself from 10 years ago, or even when I met you, back then I was just meditating and I knew things that I didn't understand and I didn't know why I knew them. And over the years, I kind of started to understand like the connection we all have with source. There's a reason why you know them. And the answer was to just not try to figure out why I know it, to just embrace that I do know it. And that's when I kind of learned my own purpose. I learned that being in the military, doing the things I did while I was in war, it wasn't just for me. It was for me to also be able to help and guide other people. There are other people that have this darkness within them that they don't know how to control, this monster or this evil they feel within them. So my meditative practices have allowed me to create guided meditations that can guide other people to truly understand and understand themselves. So.
Okay, so we are at a very important point now. So can you give some specific meditation tips to people who have that, who are fighting that inner demon, who have that anxiety, for example, or who are at the brink of breaking down or burnout or whatever? Just give them some tips on how they can live a better life.
Yeah, I'd say that the number one tip is again, it's going to be to breathe. Again, I know people laugh when I say to breathe because you all say that you breathe naturally, but you breathe subconsciously in order to actually really think about your best self. Concentrate on your breathing for a moment. And then it's also, again, the mental transmutation of changing your thoughts. It's the mental alchemy, as people would call it. It's the concept of changing your conscious thoughts, which are like base metals, into personal enlightenment, which is like gold. And that's just, again, the reprogramming. So when you reprogram yourself, it goes from the, what if this isn't going to work out? What if none of this pays off? What if no one ever likes me? To, hey, what if it does work out? What if I change my environment? What if everyone does like me? To even further being like, it doesn't matter if it does or doesn't work out because I'm going to learn something from it. It doesn't really matter if no one likes me because I love myself. We can't focus so much on pleasing everyone else. When you stop trying to please everyone else and you start trying to please, love, and accept and embrace yourself, it makes it so much easier to deal with these demons. A lot of these demons come from expectations. The expectations we have from our family, to have a family, to get married, to give them grandchildren, that's an expectation, to go to a great college, to have this amazing job. We got to stop thinking like, oh my God, I'm 30 years old. I don't have the ideal job. I don't have a family. I'm not married. It doesn't matter. That's not for everyone. What matters is what actually truly makes you happy. And once you can finally find what makes you happy, it's easy to deal with those demons. All those demons are, to me, are expectations. They're expectations you have of yourself. They're not these external forces that have tried to take over your mind and tell you that you're doing wrong. You're fighting your own fears, your own unknowns, and battle them one at a time. Don't try to take on every single inner demon at once. Just pick one. Meditate, like I said before. Get to that subconscious, conscious mindset where everything is like a racetrack going around you. Call in one of those thoughts like you would with the pit crew, and just focus on that one. Take notes, write things down, research it if you want to. Again, remember that it's all internal. It's something you have to work on within. And as you heal little by little, it's like you're adding, pieces to your own ladder. Imagine just two sticks standing next to each other, about 2 feet apart. For everything you're able to get through, it adds like another peg in the middle. So you can climb higher and higher and higher and higher until you've stepped out of your own mind, your own subconscious mind, to where your conscious and subconscious are one, and you have your superconscious.
Thank you so much. I think that was really great and a really great method. And it's really important to note that, first of all, you have everything you need. You don't need anybody else to reach that point. Mm-hmm. And you don't need anything. And breathing is just so easy. And meditating is just such an easy thing to reach your subconscious or whatever. And you don't need anything else or anybody else to help you with it.
Yeah. And that's true. You don't need anyone else, but it's nice to have other people guide you. Like, yes. I never want people to think like, don't go to anyone, you got to do it all yourself. Like, there's lessons that, that's why we go to, hypnotherapists and, guided people that do guided meditation or spiritual teachers. It's because they have a lesson that we just might not be 100% sure about. And there's so many sources out there. When I say sources, like references to go from, that it can be kind of confusing. I meet people that want to learn about crystals. So they go online, they'll watch YouTube videos, they'll read a book, they'll listen to podcasts, they'll watch all these videos on Instagram, and a lot of this information is conflicting. It's not really conflicting. You just have to find something that works for you. So you might get a message from someone that actually gives you help in a step that you're supposed to do, and you can accept that help when it comes. So I don't want everyone to think like you can't turn to someone else or go to someone else, but don't rely on anyone else. Know that the answers are within you. You just have to figure them out.
Absolutely.
Like you have a puzzle. Like if you had a puzzle, if I just gave you a bunch of puzzle pieces and I didn't show you what the finished product looked like, it might be kind of hard to put it together. But by seeing the actual image on the front, which is the people trying to help you, you can say, okay, this person has gotten there before. They're giving me tiny pieces. I'm going to combine my pieces with the guidance that they're giving me if it works for me. And then when you complete that puzzle, it's great. And you don't always have to acknowledge the person and, tell them I'm so grateful, because, the universe does that. And it's just something that naturally happens. And that person helping you also shouldn't expect you to do that. It's another problem with people that are guiding other people. Don't have the expectation that you're giving someone something, so they have to give you something back. Because if you expect to be given something back, what reason are you really doing it for?
Yeah, you're not really giving to give, you're giving to get something.
Yeah, you just give to give. That's what it should be about. Everyone trying to help each other. I heard Gary Vee say something this morning that was super powerful, and he was just talking about, giving out free content is where it's at. If you give out free content for the rest of your life, you're probably always going to feel good, because you don't have that expectation of getting something back. And that's why I love going on Instagram and social media and just connecting with people and just giving, because they naturally give back. I don't expect it, but it happens. And I know that, the universe will always share with me what I need to know when I need to know it. So I just keep going and flowing, and I never look back.
Absolutely. And it's really important also, like when I look back at myself and yourself at like 10 years ago, I was kind of, at the time, I was kind of not ready, but it did resonate with me. Like I knew it was true and there was something right about it, but sometimes you just need years to process that lesson and to process what it is that you're learning.
They say the teacher will show themselves when the student is ready. And by being ready, it doesn't mean you're ready to solve the problem. It just means you're ready to have that seed planted. A lot of people plant seeds in people. You receive that seed, and it just sits inside of you in the darkness. And then once it's ready, it'll blossom. It'll become the most beautiful thing ever. And a lot of people also think negatively when they're like, I can't believe it took me 10 years to open my third eye or realize this lesson. It's not bad. Those 10 years are what you needed to understand that lesson, and probably other things. And in those 10 years, you probably learned so much stuff that there's actually someone else going through the exact same thing as you, and you might be able to guide them so that they don't have to go through the 10 years themselves. And you can actually set them on a path that is a lot more positive for them. And it's positive for you because you now know that you can guide someone. You now know that the information and your experiences help guide others.
Absolutely. And so tell us how far you have taken your subconscious or superconscious, because I know you can see, hear, feel things and events and talk to the source and all of that, like whatever people believe in. We say, yeah, believe in this, and whatever you take from this following conversation that is going to follow, just take whatever resonates with you, and yeah, let us know, please.
It's hard to define things. Like when you have that like super conscious mindset, you can't really define stuff because you can't really explain everything in like language. That's like one of the biggest problems I think we have. I don't want to say the word problems, but that's one of the harder things to do within the spiritual world, is to explain something to someone. It's like explaining the concept of wind or energy. Like people can't see it, so they might not believe it. But for me, I've taken it as far as I can go at this current moment. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but for me, I've been able to, have a deeper connection to source, to understand and understand why I'm able to do and see and experience and feel the things I can. I'm able to feel people across, large masses of water, but that's because I let go of that mentality and concept of distance. I let go of that concept of time. I let go of so many of these societal laws and rules that most people follow. And when I let them go, I began to truly see how the universe actually works. I began to understand and see the world like, if you think of me and you and I are both computers. We both have our conscious, we both have our subconscious, and the connection we can have can be like a landline, like we're doing right now, an actual cable that connects us. But there's times where we're not connected by that cable, where we don't talk to each other. And when I feel something, that's like Wi-Fi. There's still a connection there. It's just not the one I can actually see. You can't see Wi-Fi wavelengths or something like that. So I've been able to, and I'm learning to work with that invisible connection of why I'm connected to people. Lots of people have those experiences where something will happen. You'll think of someone, and then moments later they text you or call you or something like that. Or you just feel someone and you message them and you're like, hey, just want to see how you're doing. and they're having like the worst day of their life, and you somehow are able to guide them and make them feel more positive. Not that we can make other people happy, but we can do things to lead them and hopefully guide them towards them wanting to be happy. But those are the connections that, that I'm working on. I'm learning to strengthen that connection I have with people without needing to message them directly. I want to know why I can feel you. I want to know why I can sense you. Astral projection was another thing. It's just traveling through, the dimensions we have within us, and also the realms and universe that's vast outside of us. So.
Yeah, and I also want people to know that it is completely normal to feel that, or to have a dream about somebody and something actually happening like that. Because many people are afraid and they don't open up about these experiences, about the connections they have to other people's, about the thoughts that they have, or the energies that they feel, or the auras that they see. A lot of people are still afraid. So I really want everybody to know too that it's okay and it's normal.
Yeah, it is normal. It's a fear of an unknown that we think is known. It's the fear of rejection. We're afraid to open up to people because we fear that they're going to think that we're crazy, because that's the society we live in now. Anyone that opens up to someone about seeing a spirit or seeing a ghost, especially in the last like 30, 40 years, is known as a nut job or someone that's super crazy, and they end up in like a mental institution. Luckily, society now has become so much more open to where people are sharing these experiences, and through sharing, we think, oh my God, I'm not crazy. I had those moments also where I thought I as much as I've been doing this, I actually could just be crazy. And then someone might do something to affirm something, it wasn't needed, but it helps me to be like, okay, you saw it too. I'm not the only one. We both can't be crazy. Wait a second, all 10 of us can't be crazy if none of us are near each other. We only talk through Instagram, yet we all saw and experienced the same thing. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with, hearing a voice in your head. That voice could be your higher self. It most times is your higher self trying to guide you towards your best life. And if you choose to ignore it, that's on you. But I chose to embrace my higher self, which has allowed me to get me to where I am today. So don't think you're crazy if you're hearing voices. Don't think you're crazy if you're having deja vu or you're seeing things that happen in the future. Know that, yeah, you can't explain it to everyone. Your parents might not understand, your friends might not understand, but there are people that will listen to you if you find them. And those people will be brought into your path and align with you when you become more aligned with yourself. When you accept it and embrace it, that's when you're going to get that friend request from some random person on Instagram that, 1 year later, you're best friends, and you're like, man, that's so cool that we met at that time in my life where I was just finding myself. So again, these things will happen when they're ready to happen.
Absolutely. And what do you think about taking like plant medicines or anything else to enhance the connection to your subconscious or to your superconscious?
Yeah. So I actually don't have anything against it, because I had done them at one point. I've done ayahuasca and other things like that, natural plant medicines, natural hallucinogens, to enhance my meditation and the energy I have around me. But something I also had to learn was to not become dependent on it. I think a lot of people are dependent on ayahuasca, DMT. Again, not saying that they're wrong, but personally, I believe at some point you need to be able to, or I need to be able to achieve that same mindset, that same super conscious without those items. Every plant, every crystal that we have in this world or this earth, it's all energy. If I'm holding a crystal in my hand or I'm taking plant medicine in my body, they all emanate some type of energy, frequency, or vibration, like Tesla would say. My goal is to then learn, okay, I've taken ayahuasca. This is the energy I felt from it. This is the vibrations I felt from it. This is the frequency. How can I do that with my own body and without that plant itself? And that's just been, again, why I traveled so often and so much. I went to South America to understand myself. Okay, this is what ayahuasca does. I want to do it on my own. If ayahuasca takes you to the 10th dimension, it's beautiful. But if you always need ayahuasca to get to the 10th dimension, what's going to happen when you can't get ayahuasca anymore? Where you go to a state where it's illegal or a country where it's illegal, people tend to get super frustrated because they miss being in that state of mind. They expect to get back there, and now they're not able to, so they feel like their spiritual path is on hold or it's stuck. So I would recommend that people use these plant medicines, but also learn to do them on your own. Because that plant medicine, that energy, it's something, it triggers something, kind of like, when you take a pill from the doctor. It's just meant to trigger something that's already within you. You can already achieve what you do with the plant medicine inside of you. We just don't actually always know how to do it. So learn your own internal self, learn your own energy, learn how to trigger that with just your thoughts, learn how to trigger that with just your energy. And you can learn that by taking some of these plant medicines and using these spiritual tools a couple times. Just don't become dependent on them.
Yes, thank you for that. And do you have anything else that you want to say, that you want to share with our audience today?
Nothing else, just like I say, breathe. Always remember to breathe. Always take time to yourself. I do it, first thing when I wake up, I meditate for a couple minutes, and it's just breathing. I don't close my eyes. And then I do it before I go to sleep and at some point in the middle of the day. If you're having a bad day and you're stressed at work, or you're stressed with your partner or relationship, or you're not happy with the way your life is going, remember that everything is a reflection of yourself. If you're not happy with your job, you could quit your job and get a new one, but it's that fear of the unknown that's keeping you from doing it. If you're not happy with the people that you're surrounding yourself with, you could find new people. It's just the fear of the unknown, that how are they going to feel when you leave them? Are you going to make new friends? When you get rid of all these fears, these things do naturally align. The universe will align you with the job that you can be passionate and happy about, the friends that you can be passionate, unconditionally loving and happy with. Just change your environment. You change your environment, you reprogram your mind, and you will live a more positive life if you have more positive thoughts.
Yay, I totally agree with that statement. So what is next for you?
So I am in Arizona in the Sonoran Desert right now, volunteering through Workaway, which I love Workaway. And it's helping me learn more about plants and the natural aspect of things, which I didn't know before. I actually don't know what's next. I don't really plan that far in the future, because I might want to stay here for a year. I might stay here for 2 more months. So I can actually never say what's next. I might be like, I want to go to Egypt, but I don't want to say that I'm going to go to Egypt in September or December or February, because I really don't know when I'll go. So I just don't plan that far ahead. I just live in the moment. I enjoy and embrace right now. So.
Okay, so thank you so much for being here. And oh yeah, tell us where our audience can reach you.
So I am on Instagram now. I just went through a huge shift and change. So on Instagram, the username is itisnow1111, but it's spelled ITISNOWELVN and the number 11. 1111 is the new company. And also when you go on that website, I have links to the Kadawa website where people can learn about more guided meditations. But again, I try to post as much free content and information through my experiences and wisdom as I can. And if people want like a more in-depth thing, they can always just message me directly, or, whatever makes them happy.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Love this episode of Mind Your Subconscious? Subscribe, rate, and leave a review on whichever platform you're listening. It's very much appreciated. Thank you so much. Catch our next episode every Monday.